Hello, my name is James Kennedy, and this webinar I'm going to walk you through how to grow your business with the money you never even knew you had. And yes, I am going to be talking about procurement and how to invigorate and focus your organization on how they are purchasing with an aim to actually growing your business. Procurement isn't always something that's seen as an opportunity to grow business, but I'm going to give you the tools you need to evangelize changing that opinion within your organization. Included in this presentation is also a couple of interesting case studies, including one from ISS in my home country of Ireland. They managed to achieve 300K in cost savings US over the course of 6 months. I'm going to show you exactly the steps they went through to achieve those savings, and I'm going to show you exactly how they reduced costs, which would have been the equivalent of up to $6 million in top line growth if they had to do it by achieving sales. So in this presentation, we're going to walk through exactly how they did that. We're also going to hear from Amacon Construction, Stefan Illich there, one of our most enthusiastic evangelists for Procurement Express. I'm going to walk through how he was able to get more strategic, spend less time battling with admin, get more strategic in order that they could grow their business more. We're going to go through some of that. And then finally from Clarendon Homes, we're going to see how Clarendon went 100% paperless, getting rid of all of their paper-based purchase order systems and what that meant for them as a business. So who is this presentation for? Well, it is definitely for CFOs and COOs in construction companies. You could be in a facilities management as well, perhaps, even maybe events marketing, something like that. But the key thing is you are in a role where you are responsible for the margin of the business, or certainly in terms of you're sitting on the finance team or on the ops team, you're interested in the profitability of the business, and you are grappling with the control issues that can go along with that. So you may be in a situation where you feel like you're going strong, or you're in a static position, but either way, you feel like there is money coming through the business, but actually getting that to the bottom line can be a struggle for various niggly different reasons, and I'm going to go through some of those. You're probably, to get the most out of this, you need to be in a company with between 20 and say 500 employees, and probably you work across multiple sites. So if you either in construction inherently work with people who are out on the field, or in facilities management where you have field service engineers, or you're running remote events where there's a number of people or a number of offices, could be even a number of retail outlets, for example, all of that is going to be relevant for what I am going to discuss today. So let's start off with a key idea. And the key idea is, what is growth? Is growth just top line growth, or is, as the saying goes, is turnover just vanity and actually profit is sanity? And in my view, it doesn't really matter what your turnover is. It's all about what you're taking home, what the profit is for the business. That's what matters for the shareholders. That's what keeps the business stable and safe for its employees. And that's what makes it successful. So if you are in a leadership position with an organization, you are probably fairly familiar with the idea of growing the business through new project acquisition. But let's just think about that for a second, and let's think about maybe a smarter way to achieve the same or even better results through other areas of the business. So there's a model which I quite like, which is this is you have to excuse the numbers, but I think they're worth concentrating on to illustrate my point, which is the traditional way to grow a business is either one of 5 ways. You grow the number of leads that the business has, so prospects coming into the business, so number of projects perhaps you're pitching on, number of events you're going to try and find new customers, more number of referrals you're getting. You're obviously going to have a cost for generating those leads, so whatever that is. You're going to have the number of times each customer buys from you. So obviously, if you can get your customers to return, make them repeat customers, that's going to generate more business as well. You can also drive up the value of the what those customers are spending with you, increasing prices, adding cross sells or upsells, other ways they can spend money with you. And then ultimately, you're going to have some margin. So in my example here, I just taken, let's start at the top. You start off with 1,000 leads for a business. It costs you $10 each to generate each of those leads, whatever it is, advertising, or it might be the cost of getting on an airplane or meeting people. Let's just put that figure in there. You have a 10% conversion rate. So 10% of those leads that you meet turn into a customer, giving you 100 customers. Each of them will spend on average with you 10 times, and they're going to say, to keep it simple, spend $100 with you. So all of that will just get you shy of $19,000 of sales in our worked example. Now, this is the traditional way of trying to grow your business. It's what all sales leaders or certainly sometimes CEOs think of first is how can we generate more leads. So if you see in my example here on the right hand side of the table, if we just improve the number of leads that we're getting, so the number of conferences we're going to or the amount of advertising or whatever, you will get extra leads. And this is oftentimes what people go to first in terms of improving or what they call growing their business. So if you can see that if you do that, if you add, 10% more into your marketing budget, for example, to try and achieve an extra 10% in terms of leads, you'll get 1,100 leads instead of 1,000. Everything else we're going to assume to be the same for the moment. So you can have $10 per lead of cost of getting a lead going, 10% conversion rate, and so on and so forth. But the problem with growing your top line sales numbers, number of leads, is as your marketing expense goes up, so does your cost of acquiring that customer. So actually, you could spend 10% more on your marketing, and at the end of the day, end up with a net profit of net change worse than you started off with. And you can see in my worked example here, you actually end up with $10 less than you started off with. So obviously, I'm not trying to say to you here that you shouldn't concentrate on your marketing and maybe look at marketing and sales activities, but I just want to highlight the fact that often what we think of first in terms of growing a business, adding more leads, is actually counterproductive or can be counterproductive unless that model is efficient. This is fairly true for most businesses. I'm pretty sure it's true for your business. But let's consider an alternate way to achieve growth. So now let's not try and increase the number of sales we have, but instead let's just focus on the bottom number. Let's improve our margin by 10%. So instead of a 20% margin, we just want a 22% margin. You can see all of the other costs stay the same, including our marketing cost, very importantly. But you get an extra $2,000. That's an extra 10% in top line and bottom line growth through looking after how your company is spending its money better in a very simplistic fashion. Again, I'm not trying to recommend that you don't do some of the other things, the other levers that can improve your business, like perhaps pushing up your prices, finding other ways for people to buy from you again. But I do want to highlight that improving your margin is often the most undervalued and underappreciated strategies for adding real bottom line growth. So if you're sitting on a finance team, this may be, I'm preaching to the choir here, but maybe someone on your team needs to think about this. Maybe it's on the ops side, those sales guys, they love to think about the turnover growth, especially when it comes to garnering commission. Excuse me if you're working on the sales team for saying that. But what matters is what the company takes home. So in this presentation, I'm going to give you some examples, some of them less intuitive than others, of how companies have managed to achieve this margin improvement exactly with the money they already have in the business, improving the profitability. I am very, very confident that these techniques can work for your company. We handle literally billions of dollars worth of spend for hundreds of customers. I've seen this happen over and over again. And we managed to improve margin for companies, customers that we work with. Then again, you don't necessarily need to be a customer. It just makes life a lot easier if you do. Obviously, I'm not going to discourage you from that, but hopefully you'll still get some value out of this presentation, even if you decide not to go ahead. So the key here is what I am dubbing Kennedy's Law, just because I couldn't find anyone else saying it, which is a business running at a 20% profit margin 1% increase in margin is the equivalent of $5 in sales. And I think that's really powerful. It's simple math, but it's really not appreciated. Every time you spend an extra dollar you didn't need to in your business, you need to make up for that by selling an extra 5 in top line sales. It's in it's table stakes when it comes to your understanding of how your business works, but really we don't focus on this enough. We don't focus it on the ways that we have let simple, seemingly trivial amounts of money slip through our fingers needlessly. I'm going to work through some of the very common mistakes you will see in business that really hurt that bottom line. And on the flip side, good opportunity here is if you decide to put a system in place, which are available these days, you can easily sort of plug those drains on your profitability. So before I get into that, let me just say a little bit about who we are. As I mentioned, we handle billions of dollars of spend for our hundreds of customers. We are the most positively reviewed procurement platform available online, and I would encourage you to Google us and find out about what other people are saying about us. We are 15 staff spread across 3 offices. I'm talking to you from our office here in Dublin. We also have sales and marketing operation in South Africa and a product development operation in Karachi and India. We're privately held, profitable, and I'd like to think fairly nice guys who work pretty hard, guys and girls who work pretty hard at achieving the kind of results I'm going to show you now for our customers. So that's just a screenshot here where you can see some of our testimonials. All these testimonials are independent, written by real customers, giving you a clear view of why we are the #1 solution of our kind. And I would encourage you to go and look at those again. Everything I'm talking to you about here is, although I am a certified procurement professional, I've done the book work. Really, most of our learnings come from working with our customers. Here's a sample of some of their logos. And you will notice that we have a cross-section of customers, but particularly the ones that we work well with are in construction or facilities management. That could even stretch into hospitality, where you have a number of different locations, and you have people across a number of different geographies or areas spending money who are disassociated from the finance team. So the finance team might be on the back end somewhere trying to make sense of all the invoices, and that's how we work, who we work really well for. The logos are all very good, but all of the tips and so on I'm going to share with you now come from real people. I just thought I'd throw up some photos of our actual customers up there. I see, Michael from Cowboys Rugby League Club in Australia down there, Michelle from Gravitational Marketing. These are all people that we know on a first-hand basis. Colette from UNICEF in the middle there. These are all people we've built a relationship with, and that's why we get better at what we do every day. We have an internal saying, which is ordinary things done consistently produce extraordinary results. So we try to improve continually our own processes, and we pass on the benefits of that to our customers. So hopefully we can see you on that slide someday. So just before I send you off to evangelize the idea of, margin is where it is at, guys, and we've got to focus more on how we're using our own money. I thought I'd arm you with a couple of quick arguments for emphasizing the importance of managing spend within the organization. So here are 3 reasons why you should modernize your purchasing system. And let's start off with my favorite, which is every dollar saved goes straight to the bottom line. Remember Kennedy's rule, in a business with 20% margin, every $1 spent needs to be made up with $5 in new sales. Conversely, every dollar you save is the equivalent of adding $5 more in sales. So that's an incredibly powerful lever, one that can really add extra profitability, stability, and profit for your organization. Second is, we all know we're working in cycles. Things may be going well now, But as of early 2019, we don't know how things are going to pan out for the next few years. Warren Buffett has an expression about investors, which I think is slightly humorous and also um, maps well to the business world, which is that when the tide goes out, you see who's not been wearing any trunks. And while things are going well in the economy, it can be a little bit easier to, seems like everyone can do well. Really, when things go a bit tougher and times tighten up, you'll see the businesses that are actually run well on a good margin and can survive. So even if you feel like this isn't something that's important right now, it really could be of huge importance should some of the economic predictions that are out there right now come through. Let's hope they don't. And then finally, a slightly more positive note is that you could argue that you're only as good as your weakest link in your supply chain. So if you're not aware of the term supply chain, it simply means your suppliers or vendors, the people who you rely on to provide value to your customers. And your competitiveness will depend on how well you can develop a vendor supply base that operates at the highest level. Because ultimately, the better your vendors are, the better you service you'll be able to provide to your customers. And some of the case studies here I'm going to talk about, I'm going to show you exactly why that becomes important, how it becomes a competitive advantage, and again, helps you to grow your business. So there are many mistakes you can make when it comes to managing purchasing within your organization. But there's 28 mistakes that I focus on that leak margin. We have a full list of this available on our blog, and I'm not going to go through them all here, but really uh, poorly managed procurement, which eats into the profitability of your organization, is a little bit, it's not one thing, it's death by a thousand cuts. There's many different ways that you can mess up a purchasing decision. And that means that because there's many different ways of doing it, sometimes it's not super obvious that you have one particular problem. On one day, it might be that you find out every now and again someone orders something without getting three quotes from a supplier, or maybe they use just an overpriced supplier when they know there's one better price available for the sake of convenience, for example. There could be a little bit of nepotism going on, and could be people blindly reordering things without being aware of new and better alternatives. It could be that there's no the people who are buying haven't got the right negotiation training. They haven't been taught about getting a BATNA, best alternative to a negotiated agreement, one of my favorites. Um, they could be ordering things on the basis of not clearly knowing what the price is, maybe using last year's price book. Um, they could be overrunning budget because they don't have work in progress figures. Really, there's an endless list, goes all the way down to paying the same invoice twice, paying for something that was never delivered. And while this may some of this may ring a bell for you and your organization. It's because there are many different little mistakes that can be made. It's not always obvious that it's a real problem until you sit back and realize, you know what, we don't often pay an invoice twice. I'm not totally sure when we've ever paid for something that was never delivered. Maybe we have, maybe there's a bit of nepotism going on. But actually, when you add all these up, it really adds up to considerable dent in your profit. Um, and having a platform that enables you to plug all or many of these holes in aggregate makes a real appreciable difference to your bottom line. If you're working on a finance team or even on the operations team, if you can plug those holes, your projects will be more profitable, and that will be a very tangible way you can demonstrate your value within the organization. So next time it comes up for a pay review or you're going for that promotion, really, I think this is the money that's just laying around ready to be picked up. No one's really valuing, but if you pick it up, I can guarantee the leadership will appreciate the extra profit at the end of the year. So let's get into some of our case studies. I'm going to start with Clarendon Homes. They went from 6 days in order to clear a purchasing decision to 60 minutes. which really freed up their time for a lot of activities. Now, you may say, well, how did they do this? Well, I'll get onto this a little bit later on. They happen to use our system where we provide a system of mobile apps and web-based apps for people to collaborate better, get approvals faster for purchasing decisions, making sure they're using the right supplier, makes it all kind of bulletproof. Um, but a lot of people will turn around to me and say, well, we're paying people anyway. Does it really matter that we're only going to save them some time? What they were able to do, though, was by getting rid of all the paper within the organization, that freed them up to spend more time on tasks like making sure their vendor supplier base was correctly vetted, setting up KPIs with them, making sure that they were pruning out the poorly performing vendors, bringing in new, better vendors. All that extra time meant that they were acting a lot more strategically within the organization, which brought a lot of benefits. The the other benefits that they got were it helped by putting in a procurement system such as Procurement Express. Obviously, there was less paper being chopped down, fewer trees were meeting their grisly end for the sole purpose of controlling spend in purchase order books. For the first time, their project managers had work in progress figures, which meant that they could more profitably bring projects to conclusion. There was an 80% cost saving on the admin, which means they freed them up for more strategic actions. Some of the challenges in rolling out a traditional ERP, and now an ERP is a big all-encompassing piece of software that you would typically bring in to try and help improve purchasing, is that it's very cumbersome, they're very expensive, they're notorious for failing, and that's why they decided to choose bring in a specialist piece of software such as Procurement Express in this instance, and that certainly worked out very well with them for them. Hannah Eastwood, the administrator there, said it's quick and easy. It includes everything I need. Amazing to use now that the office can go paperless. And actually, I saw another email from Hannah which told them that they actually got rid of a bunch of cabinets full of paper that they used to have and don't need anymore. Next, we have Amacon Construction. So Amacon are a Toronto-based construction company who really pushed the system to the limits. And what they were able to do was, again, get rid of the paper-based purchase order system that they had before. And they, for the first time, were able to provide their project managers with more or less real-time data on how their projects were coming along. This dramatically improved the profitability of the business, of the projects they were running. But as well as that, on top of that, because Stefan, who runs the projects over there, was sort of little bit ahead of the curve, he realized that he was able to get access to data that was stuck in traditional accountancy systems, but he, as a project manager, really could get a lot of value out of. So we developed with him, a set of reports that allowed him to see exactly which projects were coming in at the what margin, right down to the square foot. He was able to more accurately then quote for upcoming projects because he had better pricing information than his competitors did about exactly which were the best vendors to use and also what they could actually deliver a finished project for with a higher degree of accuracy and understanding. And that was certainly, he found it to be a benefit in some of the reporting features that we were able to provide for him to get at that data. There were, of course, extra benefits was that, he could track budgets. He had a supplier database, which he was able to develop over time. He also developed a product and pricing database, which came along for free in a way because of the way the system works. It was the first time searchable, means everyone was able to see exactly who provided what and at what cost in a historical manner as well, which is a benefit. And of course, it was interactive, which meant that for the first time, project managers had relevant access to the information they needed to know that used to be trapped in their accountancy system. Next, we have the big one, rebate. This is a rebate story. So rebates, in case you're not aware of them, if you if you decide to consolidate some of your spending with a number of vendors, you oftentimes are able to go to those vendors and then and negotiate a rebate at the end of the year in terms of a cost saving. And this is the strategy that ISS, which is a facilities management company based in Dublin, Ireland, and around Ireland, again with multiple locations, used to quite a lot of success. For them, the step one was to enforce purchase order policy, which meant that they decided that all vendors would now have to provide a purchase order with every invoice that was submitted. This immediately gave them much better understanding of who was ordering what and for which projects. Um, and a simple step, but before they just weren't able to do this because of the delays involved in post and paper, and because the invoices were flying all around the place, to different sites. It was hard to collate everything on time. So by implementing procurementexpress.com, they were able to, for the first time, consolidate all that information into one database, and that meant that they had more say when it came to requiring those purchase orders for the payment of invoices. This may be something that you're already doing in your organization. If you're not, I highly recommend it. It's a simple, effective strategy. It stomps out a lot of errors. At the very least, I look at companies that require purchase orders as having a sort of beware the dog sign on their front lawn. You know that they have some level of control in place. It just puts off any people who may be tempted to try and pull a fast one, as we would call it in Ireland. So obviously this stopped any rogue spending, prevented 90% of disagreements over costings, which used to occur with vendors, and reduced the volume of invoice queries by about 95%, huge time saving there. Step two was to give the ops team access to and the ability to have their purchases automatically, where appropriate, approved, or have the approval process automated for them so that they can more quickly use the system. Key to this is if you're bringing in a system, it's got to be something that actually saves time for your ops people. It's going to cost time. You're going to get a pushback. You won't get the rollout that you want, and ultimately then it will fail. So that's why we have spent a lot of time developing a series of mobile phone apps, other tools to make it super simple to raise a purchase order no matter where you are in the world, and get it approved fast and move on. The last thing once they had all their information in the system, then all the payment system information was flowing through, they were able to carry out a spend analysis. And on the back of that spend analysis, they divided their vendors into those vendors which were, they had no impact on profit, so they were not really spending a lot of money with, versus those that were impacting on their profit to the higher volume in terms of higher gross spend with particular vendors. Then they segmented out the vendors they were spending the most money with, but also for which there was good market choice. So for the vendors, they could go to and basically leverage to say, listen, I have plenty of choice about where I'm spending my money. If you are going to give me a discount, I will promise to place more of my business with you. They achieved that. And then on the back of that, then they were able to save more than $300,000 in savings. And using Kennedy's law, if you remember, that equivalent, if they had to try and achieve that same profit improvement through new sales, they would have needed $6 million in new sales over the course of 6 months. Tall order. So let's put it in that perspective when we're thinking about the importance of applying better purchasing processes for your organization. So, of course, you can implement all of this using email, spreadsheets, purchase orders, paper-based purchase orders. Many people do, but there are many problems with that, and you could argue that it can make some problems worse. It slows down your organization. It gunks up your team, spending too much time doing admin, not enough value-added activities such as meeting with your strategic vendors, agreeing targets with them, getting better prices on items, getting better service, ultimately improving the quality of the product that you're delivering to your customers. So that's exactly why we built procurementexpress.com. It's a modern value for money solution. which stops unexpected spend. It adds an odd level of auditability, which you may not have in your organization at the moment. Again, very key for running a clean, nice business, profitable business. It's been built specifically for mobile workers. And it stops a lot of confusion, stops your AP team getting a bunch of phone calls from vendors and teammates wondering about the status of purchase orders and invoices. We can roll it out in a few days. And again, once you put this system in place, you can execute some of the strategies that I've been talking about here in order to achieve results for your organization. So again, this is for CFOs, ops, and accountants in the construction, facilities management, events companies with between 20 and 200 employees. If you're working on multiple locations and you're on tight margins, this is definitely a strategy I would consider and recommend. To revisit some of the testimonials we have available online, if you search for procurementexpress.com or purchase order software, you'll find in there somewhere our reviews. We have literally hundreds of very satisfied customers, thousands of people using the software. We can easily say that we are the easiest to use solution in the marketplace, which means that even if your workforce are not super sophisticated when it comes to using apps and software and so on, it doesn't matter. We've made it easy enough. We're definitely the easiest system to use, which is part of the key to our success. And you'll see that when in the reviews as well. So let me just skip through. So to say thank you for getting this far in the presentation and listen to me talk about some of these strategies. I have a couple of special offers for you, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. But really, if you decide to move forward with, say, a trial of procurementexpress.com or to have a demonstration with one of our salespeople, what you will get for that is benefits in terms of 80% less time spending on administration. You'll get much clearer idea of what your work in progress figures are for projects, which will help your ops people. And your leadership will have a much clearer idea of the opportunities for improving margin and profit within the organization. The procurementexpress.com, although it's easy to use, is very fully featured software. It offers budget management, catalog management, contract management features, invoice processing, punch out, which is a very nice feature to help expedite online orders. We offer an ability to raise requisitions and create approvals from mobile anywhere, as simple as a click to an email approval system. We offer spend management features and analytics to help you understand better how you're spending and where you can improve. So all of that, really, I can highly recommend it if you are looking for a way to improve profitability of your organization. So the best prices you get from our sales team, you can go on and sign up online, but I'd recommend if you interact with our onboarding team, either through the chat or through some of the other, through email or phone, whatever works for you. We have bandwidth for taking on 25 new customers a month, and that fills up pretty quickly. So I would recommend that you get in touch sooner rather than later so that we can help you get one of those spots. Also, in return for watching the video, I'd like to offer you a bonus, which is 90 days of free invoice matching. It's a great feature. What it means is that all your invoices can be automatically matched to the correct purchase order as they come in. It's a huge time saver in terms of just making sure that all of the invoices are correctly matched. It's a great feature, and you only get access to this if you mention the webinar you're talking about now. We also offer 100% guarantee. If you don't get an ROI on your investment with us in the first 90 days, we'll give you free procurement training on how to roll out a rebate strategy for your customers. If that doesn't work, we'll just give you your money back. Really, there's no risk involved in coming on board, but it can really make a significant impact on your business. The prices are from $25 per user per month. And again, like I'd say, I'm confident we'll be able to make a very positive ROI for you. We're guaranteeing a 10x ROI on that, and we'll train you exactly how to get the most out of the system. So I would like to thank you very much for watching me walk through some of these strategies. I hope you find it of benefit. I'd like to encourage you to go to procurementexpress.com, sign up for a free trial, and our team will be very happy to facilitate you